All right, welcome to today's webinar. I am Erica Carroll, the Education and Training Manager at Atlona, and I am joined today by Chris Painter. He's the Senior Technical Sales Engineer at Symetrix. Chris, would you like to say hi?
Hello, thanks for joining everybody.
Awesome, thank you. We will hear from Chris in just a little while. A couple months ago, you may know that we announced Atlona has partnered with Symetrix to offer seamless integration with their industry-leading DSPs. This integration means that our products have been tested and verified for full compatibility in streaming AES67 and Dante networked audio streams between Symetrix DSPs and Atlona's OmniStream family of AV over IP products. In a bit, Chris will go over which Symetrix products families are Dante or AES67 enabled, followed by a demonstration that includes adding Atlona products into a system design using the Symetrix Composer software. And finally, we'll show you how easy it is to control the audio elements of the room using Velocity, which is Atlona's IP-based control platform. So OmniStream audio products are the ideal complement to Pro and R-Type for meeting rooms, restaurants, and bars, and even whole house audio. OmniStream Pro and R-Type encoders and decoders stream audio to the OmniStream audio devices using AES67, which also enables interoperability with third-party AES67 capable products like those from Symetrix. OmniStream audio devices, which we'll go over in just a second, are also Dante capable, which allows you to integrate microphones and other Dante-equipped devices, including DSPs. The Atlona OmniStream 232 is a Dante networked audio interface that both transmits and receives 2 channels of audio over a network. It features 2 balanced mic line audio inputs with a selectable 24-volt phantom power, as well as 2 balanced line level outputs. The Omni 232 lets you integrate microphones and other sources using Dante, and it's the ideal bridge into facility-wide Dante audio systems for conferencing, presentations, paging, and even background music. And when paired with an OmniStream VC2 decoder, you can also bring de-embedded audio from an HDMI source or embed Dante audio for a display. The second audio device we offer is the OmniStream 238, which receives audio streamed from OmniStream AV encoders and delivers up to 16 audio outputs. It's configurable as 8 stereo pairs or 16 mono channels. Up to 16 channels of PCM audio can be received by the OmniStream 238, and an audio stream can be routed to 1 or more unbalanced or balanced outputs, each with programmable volume control. The OmniStream 238 is ideal for feeding audio from HDMI sources to a whole house audio system, as well as multiple audio zones in a commercial AV application. So let's take a look at a simple application here. Laptops going into the OmniStream encoders is one way to get AV data on the network. You'll also notice on the top left, we're utilizing the Omni 238 to integrate microphones onto the network. Then we'll use it again with an OmniStream AV decoder for processing de-embedded audio that's streamed over the network and embedding Dante audio for playback through a display. Additionally, Atlona recently introduced the Gain 120, which is a plenum-rated power amplifier designed for low or high impedance applications. There's actually a switch on it that allows the amplifier to deliver 2 channels of 60 watts, each in 4 or 8 ohms, or a single channel of 120 watts at 70 or 100 volts. And to go with the Gain 120 is the Gain Net, which is an additional add-on. This is a networked audio interface card for the Gain 120 amplifier. It features an AES67 Dante and dual channel audio bridge, adding the capability to accept 2 channels over a network from Dante or AES67 equipped DSPs, as well as the Atlona OmniStream AV encoders. Now you'll see that amp being used a little bit later in the example that Chris will be building out. But before we get to that, let me turn over controls to Chris so that he can teach us a little bit about Symetrix.
All right, thank you. Show my screen. Okay, so everybody see my screen?
Yes, we do, thank you.
Great, thanks, Eric. All right, so let's get started here. I'm going to give you a quick product presentation of our Composer products. Okay, so to start with, I'm going to show you our audio DSPs. Our Radius EX is basically our main selling model. You'll notice a few things about this. It's a 12 input, 8 output device. You've got an optional card slot. You've got RS-232 capability. These units have dual Dante ports and dual Ethernet ports. So it's a built-in 10100 switch for the Ethernet side and a built-in gigabit switch for the Dante side. That can be used for Dante redundancy, or it can be used for daisy chaining units. So it makes it pretty handy. Our Radius AEC model is basically our conferencing box. So this unit is also a 12x8 with an optional card slot, but it has 8 channels of acoustic echo cancellation built in for conferencing applications. And of course, that can be expanded upon. The Edge processor is sort of a unique model. There's no analog inputs and outputs built in out of the box. It has 4 of the optional card slots instead. So the Edge really makes a lot more sense when you have a need for lots of digital inputs and outputs, or possibly for voice over IP cards, or some scenario like that. One other thing that the Edge does that none of the other units can do is that it has the optional power supply redundancy. So in a mission critical environment like a hospital or something where power supply redundancy is necessary, then the Edge processor would be the option. Here's a quick screenshot of all of our expansion cards. We've got a 4-channel analog input card expansion, 4-channel analog output expansion, 4-channel acoustic echo cancellation card expansion, 4-channel digital input card, and 4-channel digital output card. And those are capable of SPDIF or ASEBU capability. This is our 2-line analog telephone interface card, our voice over IP card, which is compatible with any SIP-based PBX, and then our USB card, which can give you up to 8 channels of USB audio in and out. Okay, the Prism Series is the next series I'll show you. The Prism is meant to be a lesser expensive Radius or Edge. It comes in 5 models: the 0x0, 4x4, 8x8, 12x12, and 16x16. So you'll notice the 0x0 and 4x4 are a half rack space unit. The 0x0 literally only has 0x0 analog inputs and outputs. So that unit really makes more sense when you need to add more processing onto an existing system, or if you don't need any local analog inputs and outputs, you could possibly be using all Dante endpoints. So that would be the lesser expensive way to go. Another thing that's really cool to point out is that the 0x0 and 4x4 are PoE plus powered. So that can be a huge convenience as well. The larger models have an external power supply. Before I move on, it's important to note a couple of the things that the Prism doesn't have that Radius and Edge do have. For example, there's a single Dante port and single Ethernet port. So that means that it doesn't have a switch built in. You would need an external switch to connect multiple Dante devices together, basically. The other thing is Prism does not have RS-232 capability like Radius and Edge. So you would need to control the system over Ethernet, or you would have to add our X control device to add RS-232 capability. Anyways, you can use a PoE switch, or here's a picture of the PoE injector that it comes with. There's 2 different mounting options for the half rack models. As you can see, a dual rack space mount, or the under desk style U-shaped bracket. Now the Radius NX, I sort of saved the best for last. Radius NX is our newest DSP to offer. It has more DSP capability. It has a 4-port gigabit switch. It has it basically comes in 2 models, 4x4 or 12x8. Both have the optional card slot. Both still have the ARC port. things like that. But there's a couple other really cool things about Radius NX that kind of set it apart, besides having a little bit more DSP capability. One thing is the AEC core processor card. Okay, so instead of having a dedicated AEC model, we actually have a single core or dual core card that can be installed in either one of the Radius NX models. So you can actually have up to 8 with the single core or up to 16 channels of acoustic echo cancellation with the dual core. So that's a huge improvement. One other really cool thing to point out about Radius NX is it actually has USB audio built in. So you have that 8x8 USB audio interface built in, so you don't have to install the USB card, and that also gives you the ability to install some other card in the optional card slot. Okay, and then I'll move on to the Dante enabled analog IO expanders. We've got a few different models there for Dante expansion. The X-in12 and the X-out12 gives you either 12 analog inputs or 12 analog outputs that you can connect to the system over Dante. These units have the dual Dante port, so Dante redundancy could be an option. Also, daisy chaining units is an option as well. The X-in4 and X-out4 and XIO 4x4. These units are half rack units, same mounting options as the Prism I showed you. These are also PoE powered, so that's a huge convenience as well for connecting these far out somewhere on the network to give you some analog expansion. Okay, really quick, I wanted to show you our ARC wall panels. The ARC 3 wall panel on the left there, that's our newest, coolest ARC wall panel that we have to offer. It's got a multi-line OLED display. It has sleep and wake functionality. You can have up to 32 different menu items to control the system, things like volume control, source selection, preset selection, things like that. The ARC 2E wall panel gives you 24 menu items. The knob you see there is a dual volume control. The 4-button ARC you can use for things like triggering presets or doing source selection, things like that. And then you can use different combinations of those all together, of course. And then the unit on the far right is our analog 10K pot style volume control. ARC Web is basically a virtual version of what the ARC 2E wall panel can do. Okay, so you can use any device that has a web browser that can connect to the network and control the system with your iPad, for example, or iPhone. In addition to ARC Web, we also have a few other things that you can access with the web interface. All the diagnostics of the unit would be one option. Also, you can see all the analog inputs and outputs and all the Dante inputs and outputs as well, simply just in the web interface. So you can quickly diagnose the system without even needing to log in using our Composer software. SymView is basically a standalone software program that comes with Composer software, and this allows you to design custom control screens. So if you actually want faders and meters and buttons and stuff like that, and custom logos and colors, you can use our SymView software. SymView would run on any Windows PC or our Control Server product. Control Server is a new product that we just released, and this when it was first released, allows you to do up to a 32-channel mixer using any device with a web browser. And with the release of Composer 7.0, we've actually opened up SymView to work with Control Server as well. So anything that you could design in SymView before could now be used as a web interface. So that's pretty exciting. Just a few other accessories to show you. The ARC power supply. This allows you to power up to 8 ARC wall panels in the star configuration. The X control is a GPIO expansion. It gives you additional external control inputs, logic outputs, and 2 additional RS-232 inputs. All of our DSPs have external control inputs. They can be used for stuff like momentary or latched buttons. They could be used for 10K pot style wall controls. The logic outputs on all of our DSPs can be used to turn projectors on and off, trigger media players, things like that. All of our DSPs are programmed using our Composer software, which I'm going to show you in just a moment. And then finally, this is the last slide of the PowerPoint. I like to show this is sort of the full Symetrix ecosystem here. You can see it all revolves around a gigabit switch. We've got SymView control up at the top left. We've got Arc Web Control, Composer software running on a PC. And then down below the switch, we've got our Edge and Radius processors connected with Ethernet as well as Dante all into the same switch. We've got Arc wall panels connected. We've got Dante expansion devices. So yeah, that kind of shows you how that can all connect. Okay, so let's move over to Composer software. Okay, so here's Composer software. I have created a quick little site file to show you this. So in the site file, I've got a Symetrix Radius NX. This is basically a conferencing site file for 8 microphones and local reinforcement. And then over here on the left, you can see that we actually support lots of third-party Dante devices directly in our software. And you'll notice Atlona is not in this list, but we have this new really cool feature that gives you a user library. So I can actually add a Dante device, and I can browse the network. And then I see that I actually have an Atlona Gain 120 connected to the network, so I can select that. And what that does is it adds this Atlona Gain 120 to my user library. So I can select that device. Now the benefit of this is that now I can actually locate and use the Atlona just like a native Symetrix device. So I can now locate this just like one of our Dante units. I'll select that. I get a green check mark here, and that shows me that, that it's located. And then what we'll do, we'll see here that the Gain 120 has 2 analog inputs, and it also has 2 outputs. So we know that bus 9 is what we will use for the inputs. So I'll double click on my Radius NX. I've got placeholders here already for that. I'll go ahead and just bring bus 9 in from my toolkit, and I will put that right here. So these are, again, the 2 analog inputs from the amplifier. And then we'll want to make a transmit flow to go back to the Atlona. I'll name it to Atlona. Okay, so that drops a Dante flow into the site file right here. I'll put that in the placeholder. And then the last thing I would have to do is go here and select that Dante flow. Okay, so now we're receiving Dante from the Atlona and to the Atlona. Now the process would be exactly the same if it's AES67. Any device that's capable of Dante and AES67 would always work as Dante inside of Composer software. But that's going to be all you would have to do to send and receive Dante audio from the Atlona. Now that the Atlona is in my user library, I can now just drag that out if I had a whole bunch of other ones on the network, and I could locate them. Okay, one final thing I wanted to show you before we log off. This is sort of slightly a different subject, but related to control. Okay, I've got some control points here in Composer software. Assigning control numbers in Composer software is really easy. I've already got some created, but I'll show you just one. I can right click on any item I want to assign control to, and I can say set up to remote control. And then I assign a remote control number, and then I can choose what controller number I want it to be and click OK. And now I've got a controller number assigned. Okay, so that's how you assign controller numbers to everything in Composer. And once you have all those numbers, we can actually generate a report of all those controller numbers that can be loaded directly into a velocity system. So for the report, I will just choose assign controller numbers. I think that's all you would need there. Then output to file, I'll say text only. And then I'm going to put it here. I say OK. already exists, overwrite, yes. Okay, and so I have created a text file now for that. And I put it over here. So this is what it looks like. And then basically I could now send this to Erica. And then Erica, if you want to take back over what you would do with this text file on your side.
Absolutely. So I'm going to switch back over to me real quick. Perfect. So what I've done here is just built out a basic room in Velocity. We have an OmniStream encoder and decoder, which allows that audio to get onto the network. I have a gain 120. So all I have to do now is add Symetrix into the room. So I'm just going to search for Symetrix and go ahead and add it to my room. And then once I come down here, I can actually choose to import controls, and that's that text file, which we have right here. And now I see all of those controls that you have built out, those numbers. So I want to specify like this master mute. We have a mute button. So let's say master mute, I'm going to say is a master volume mute. And then I come down here and I specify, let's see here, input gain fader. Let's say, for instance, that that's actually a microphone. So let's say that's presenter microphone. And these are actually names that I have already defined. So I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. And I'm going to assign this one to a guest microphone. And then as soon as I save it, save this. And then I want to make sure that these names are actually saved in my room control options. So down here we have master volume. Microphone 1 gain is, we've created this name presenter. And then microphone 2 gain, we've created this guest microphone. That one is, sorry, this one is not correct. And I'll just call this one volume. Let's hit save on that. I can launch control. And then I have these audio controls available within my room. So now we have controls here. This is going to be your master volume. And then for those microphone controls, I would click this microphone. Move this out of the way. And now I have my individual microphone controls come in this slide out here. So if I were to do that specifically for the EQ or any of those other things in that text file, you'd be able to control them individually from Velocity here. So now we're ready for some questions. There are some questions here. So Chris, I have a few questions for you here. For the Radius product, can the device be connected on a Dante network as well as using analog inputs? Outputs could then be switched from the Dante signal to the analog signals. And if so, how would the switching be done?
Okay, I mean, that sounds like a programming question. You could simply have your analog inputs, in the routing of the composer site file. You could have your analog inputs connected to a matrix mixer, for example, or an input selector, and then have a Dante flow coming in and have that also as a selection. You could change that, using an A/B switch. You could use presets. There's multiple ways to do that. Yeah, that's a programming question. You could certainly give me a call and ask me how to accomplish that.
Awesome. So is AES67 Dante routing configurable with Dante controller as well?
Yes. So in Composer software, one huge benefit of using Composer software is that in a lot of circumstances, you actually don't need Dante controller at all. For example, in what I showed you was that we could use Composer to browse the Dante network. We found that Atlona Dante device on the network. We actually route Dante audio in and transmit audio to it, all without the need of Dante controller.
Awesome.
But if that's your workflow and you wish to just create generic Dante flows inside of the Composer site file, and if your plan is to use Dante controller to change your routing on a daily basis, you can absolutely do that, no problem.
Okay. Are your products Dante Domain Manager ready?
Yes, they are, as of Composer 7.0.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Let's see. There's somebody asking, we're looking at an immediate solution to begin next week, the Atlona 840 Metrix with a Solus NX 8x8 for a team room. He didn't see the Solus device positioned. Is that?
The reason why I didn't, there's quite a few products that I didn't show in my product presentation. I basically focused only on the Dante AES67 related products. So Solus I didn't mention at all, but Solus is a standalone unit that doesn't have Dante.
Okay, perfect.
But yes, it's absolutely just as compatible on the control side of things, but you wouldn't be able to use Solus with a Dante system.
Okay. To get Symetrix controls to show in velocity, do you need to enable that control? We're going to get back to that in just a second. And does Velocity provide an API to use third-party interfaces such as custom iOS apps? I don't really understand your question there. Velocity is a control platform, so you can't embed apps within it. All right, so that was a lot of questions, and we are at the top of the hour now. And for any of you that have questions that we didn't get to today, we'll be sure to reach out to you after this. If you have any questions beyond what has already been asked, or if something comes to you later, you might have questions about. I know we have questions about switch recommendations and dialers and whatnot. So we'll be sure to reach out to you. You can always email either myself or Chris if you have something Symetrix related or Atlona related. We are always here to answer your questions and make sure that all of our products are interoperable, so we can verify that all of these systems will work for you when they go for installation. Thank you, Chris, for your time today.
No problem at all. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you all, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
All right, bye.